with traffic, with cars along the curb. The city has seen fit to take all parking out of there, so it knocked the store out of existence in front of the place. And Tom Fox.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that had the grocery store in there for many years. And it was a gathering place for people in that part of the city, the Prospect Park area. People lived there on Congress Street, and there was always automobile traffic, human traffic on it. What we've got now is a situation where we've got three buildings that nothing can be done under the existing law. We're asking to change those buildings over to apartments, student apartments mainly. We prepare three new units to go in there, so there'll be a total of 10. We're short one parking space to satisfy those 10. The 10th person in, if the first 9 have got automobiles, the last person to get rental in that area would be somebody without a car. It talks about special use permit for this particular use. I've done research, and the special use permit is usually used to satisfy a need of the community by the board or the city council or somebody else saying that there's something that should be able to go there and occupy that property. And that's what we're here for tonight, asking you to grant us a variance for one parking space so that we can go and do these buildings over. I believe you've had copies of the submitted appearance of what the properties are going to look like when we're all through, and what they are right now. This is how it appears with the storefront.
Right, we got them. Yeah.
And this is now when it's modernized and finished off. And so, personally, I think it's a no-brainer. That was common when I was in high school, that we need something to fix that up in the city of Shore, and not let it go down any further than it has. Those buildings are probably to water power and the city of Troy when it was a manufacturing process up there. What should they, it was a manufacturing store.
Wells and Coverly.
No.
Rodino's.
No.
Rodino. Okay.
Rodino's.
Come on, close.
Dino's.
No, big place.
Wells and Coverly,
Back.
they were up there at Woltex.
I
won. I won.
And that was a rehab of the factory originally. The factory had water power, and that's what made it an ideal spot. So we stand ready to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Oh, okay. Katie, go ahead. Then we'll go, John.
I just wanted to clarify that it's 11 units and that there are 10 parking spaces proposed to make that deficiency of 1.
It was, I guess a typo was there. It was, we have currently 7 units, 2 commercial storefronts at the bottom level and ground level, street level. And we want to convert 2 commercial storefronts into 3, 2 studios and 1 bedroom.
Okay.
And he has drawn drawings to make that work. And so it would be that additional, instead of 2 storefronts, it would be 3 studios, apartments. So it would be 9, 7, 2 into 7, 3.
But one of them probably has the need for 2 cars or something. Is that where the logic comes in for the 11?
what needs for 2 cars?
Well, we're here
So
for
you're
10 cars. You want a 10-car space, and if you say you're having 10 apartments, then that should be okay unless one apartment
Well,
needs
this-
2 spaces.
This drawing shows after the,
11 units.
off the line.
He said there's 10
There will
he said
be
there's 10
10.
units.
10
Parking
apartments.
spots, 11 units.
No, he said 8 and 2 apartments too. How many apartments?
Total apartments, at the end of everything, 10.
10. Total apartments, 10. Total parking spaces, 10. So,
So my apologies if that's a misunderstanding. I understood there were 11 units at some point. Maybe that's changed. If
Oh.
that's the case, then there is no.
okay,
deficiency.
so then there is no deficiency. So then the only deficiency would be the special use.
Well, does this? Is this space outside of that lot line? Is that the one that we talked about banking?
No, so
Or-
it's just space to get in and out.
Okay,
There's no banking in this instance in this lot.
so there are 10 spaces.
Yes.
Because Mr. Griffin said 9. So that's what I wanted to clarify.
Right, so the most recent drawing from Frederick does show 10 spaces.
10 spaces, 10 apartments.
So we don't
We're on
need the
special
area
use.
variance.
We don't need the area variance.
My apologies, that's
Yeah, that's
new-
perfectly
news
all
to
right.
me.
Perfectly all right.
That's great.
John, did you have a question?
Can someone set the date? When was the Congress Street reconstruction project?
It hasn't been done yet, has it? Dash?
Well, when
Well,
did the,
I'm
The
not,
original,
When they put
did
that island in.
the parking spaces in front of the building go away?
Oh, good question. Do you know, Ed?
4 years ago.
It was
No,
4
4
or 40?
Oh,
It had to have been, because Kareem Jindali, who wrote, I gave that email, he managed it since 2007, and then I bought it in 2018. And I know that, even when I was living in Troy on 17th Street, I would drive by there, and even in 2015, it was.
Yeah, those spaces were taken away before all that construction happened to make that island.
Yeah,
okay.
and I would say going back to like at least 2000. Kareem says that all of it when he was managing.
it was probably done around 2006.
Okay.
So the spaces were lost before he purchased the building?
Yeah, and how many failed businesses have been?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
all those
Okay.
failed
Yeah.
businesses, yeah.
Just wanted to get clarity on
Yeah.
that. It didn't happen after he had purchased it.
Oh, yeah,
He could-
no. Yeah, but I do remember other people coming here and wanting to put in and didn't have the parking, probably prior to when you purchased it. And they were gonna give it a shot and it didn't work. Different businesses going in there. Without the opportunity to park, it just wasn't working very well.
Yeah, I mean, I've owned the building since 2000. I've owned the building since 2018, like July of 2018. I've had some bites, and once they hear they
Right.
can't have any parking, it's kind of like I had a hair salon interested. I had non-for-profit. That was the most interesting, but the non-for-profit, I'm like, well, you have any proof of income? And I didn't really- maybe I should have rented it, but I would have lost anything anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay, is anybody here else here to speak in favor of this proposal? Anybody to speak in opposition? All right, does anybody from the board have anything further they want to say, or are we ready to take a vote? On the special use only?
We gotta do a secret first.
Yes.
Just before the board speaks, you folks may remember that we came before you back in November of last year, a video conference. And then, John, is it normally?
Normal.
Normile, yes, you requested that we contact some of the adjacent business owners.
I think that was Jack.
Okay.
We have a Jack and a John here.
Okay, anyways, we did reach out to the adjacent business owners. One, to purchase some right away to make the parking lot a little bit bigger. And we also wrote a letter to the folks down the street just past Stewart's. And we have copies of those letters if you'd like to see them. But neither one of those folks replied to our letter. And then Adam also has had a for rent sign up there for the past several months.
Well, yeah, I would say, well, Robert Combs here,
Okay. Just wanted to
but-
state.
Okay,
that
thank
we-
you, Mr. Ring.
Find those Satisfied conditions.
Yeah, I was trying to work it out that you guys could work with the landowners to solve the situation, especially going up Brunswick Road with that traffic that was there at times. But I guess you've addressed that.
We went down those paths. And,
All right. Thanks.
Okay, Katie?
Madam Chair, I move that in ZBA 2020-0061, that the board find this. Am I drawing a blank?
Oh, is that enough?
The board find this to be an unlisted action, which is not expected to cause environmental impact.
We have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, and on the motion, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Carried. And on, do we have a motion for the special use permit? Pardon me?
No one.
I
here-
asked.
here- okay,
Yeah,
sorry. I
nobody
missed it.
wanted to speak for or against. So we need a motion on the special use permit.
just looking for the,
Yeah, you got it, you got it. Give us a template for that.
special use. I don't think we have one.
I couldn't find those through at my house,
So
the explanation.
the template for the findings of fact for the special use.
Usually
We
it's
have
printed
them
at the
for
bottom
area
of the
and
application.
At the end of each application.
Yeah.
To
so,
include that, okay.
so
Yeah.
should we use the use variance? I mean, it's it's closest. Sorry.
Use the
Use
use
the use
variance.
variance.
Yes,
Okay.
I would say so.
Madam Chair, I will move to make a positive motion for the special use permit in ZBA 2020-0061. I feel like the applicant has shown he can't realize a reasonable return with the property the way it is. I don't think this will alter the essential character of the neighborhood, but I do think that getting rid of those empty storefronts will actually enhance the character of the neighborhood. And also the discussion within the case. For those reasons, I move to make a positive motion.
Okay, and do we have a second? Jack McCann seconds. And the motion, Mr. Normile,
I'll vote yes to approve.
Mark Palazzi,
Yes, to approve.
Jack McCann,
Yes to approve.
Katie McLaren,
Yes.
and Kathy Conroy. I vote yes also. So there you go. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Hope it works. Okay, and our next case is PLZBA 2021-0027. 252 Hill Street, special use permit and expansion in an area. Expansion and area variance, major lot size adjustment. The applicant Lindsay Zefting Vera seeks a special use permit for the expansion of an existing residential use at 252 Hill Street by more than 25% and an area variance for the reduction of 250 Hill Street due to a land purchase currently under contract. Could you explain what you want to do, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good evening, board. Appreciate you hearing this. So we are under contract with our neighbor to transfer roughly 3 acres from his parcel to ours. We live at the end of 252 Hill Street at the base of Prospect Park next property, so it's not really useful for him, but it allows our kids to have more yards to play in, which would be great. Because our two lots are zoned conservation, it requires these two variances. So it's all the special use permit and the variance. I did want to make sure I noted that you all saw it that there was a disclosure form in the packet. So my husband is Aaron Vera, city engineer, so I want to make sure it's transparent about that. We do that to get the consent from.
Yes, and that's in the packets here. Yep.
Okay, I have a couple, are you done? I didn't
Yeah,
really
go
interrupt you.
ahead. I'll
Okay.
answer any questions.
All right, I have a couple of questions. First of all, I went down and to see what this property looked like. And the girl was coming out of the house at the bottom of the hill, so to speak, which is 250,
Yes. 250.
correct? I presume she's a renter because she didn't know anything about it, about the case, which is fine.
The girlfriend of the son of the Dodge.
Well, obviously they don't communicate. I told her while I was there, I said, oh, are you involved in this? And she said, no, I don't know anything about it. I said, okay, fine. So then there's like an empty, I don't want to say it's a field, but it's a decent amount of land, shall we say. And then your house is up a little bit on a hill. Is that 252?
252, yes, it is.
So, I mean, to me, there should have been room for another thing in the middle. So I thought maybe you were 254, but that's not the case. All of that land is considered 250.
There is no 254, so it is 250 is the house closest to the road.
Right. And then you're
Yeah,
and then you're 252 at the top of the hill,
Yeah.
so to speak, a hill. But you know what I mean?
I truck it every day.
Yeah, right, so it's a hill. So it is a hill. Okay. I think before we go any further, only because I would just like to resolve what I know is a bit of an issue, that we have somebody here who says that there's a concern about who owns what land. So if we can get that straightened out, because if we can't get that straightened out, then we're going to have to table it. So there's no point in going any further with the specifics of this case until we determine. So Kate, you want to come up and speak to what your concern is? And maybe we can get it straightened out.
It's off, yeah.
Could you just introduce yourself, please? And where you live?
My husband is a property owner on Hill Street, 235, which is across the street from Blue Dodge to the big store. Anyway, the property that Blue Dodge is selling to parents is supposedly on our deed that my husband's father bought in 1954. Now, how Blue Dodge, it's also on his, I don't know. So we've got a lawyer, we're getting a lawyer, we have a search, he was supposed to expedite, but they couldn't. do it.
Well, before you go any further, I just happen to know because I know Kate and her husband, and she asked me about this the other day. Not that it's, and that's not going to influence my vote. So don't look at me like that, Dash. It's not going to influence my vote, but I did know about this before she got here. That Kate, they just got this, the letter was Saturday. So they really, it wasn't like they knew about this 3 weeks ago and hung on waiting to get a lawyer. You know what I mean? It was just mail being what it is or whatever. They just got it Saturday, which leaves them in a bit of a short turnaround time to come here and get this resolved. And it isn't like it's not going to work for you, Lindsay, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, I just don't see the point in going forward with the particulars of your case if we're going to have to table the whole thing to find out who owns the property. Am I right?
You're looking at me.
Because you're a lawyer and you're sitting next to me and you're
I
part of
am
this
not a
board.
lawyer in my capacity on this
Now, I
subject.
understand that, but nevertheless,
Could be a case of a misunderstanding.
exactly, exactly.
But I remember years when Jerry's mother was alive, that we always talked about 4.25 acres that they owned, that they bought from Russ, and it was Russ property, but the house area was cut out.
So the Ruff's property was,
It was a mill.
no, but I mean, like, as opposed to
Behind.
Mr. Dodge's, where was Ruff's?
Russ is 250 is the house, and then the hill is the property up
Okay.
That was included
in his
on the
parcel
opposite side of the street.
of across the street.
Since 1954, who's been occupying the property?
Well, the property that's in question about being sold is woods and hills and whatnot. But other than that, my husband's mother, after the father died, married Pitnell, she owned it. And then now my husband owns it.
No, I didn't ask who owned it.
Oh.
Who's been,
Is it
like, who's
occupied?
been using the
Oh, my
property?
husband.
Okay,
He uses it for a business, but it's not actually that particular piece of property. Even
right. So
though-
the property that is before us to be considered to be added to the Hill Street address,
Yes.
who currently, so there's an
us.
allegation that
It's
two
us.
people own it, right? That,
Yes.
and, but who's been currently occupying it for the last,
Well, now he's occupied because it's woods.
it's woods, okay.
There's nothing up there.
There's no developed property in there?
No.
Okay. Is there a fence around it?
No,
Okay.
we have a fence around the
Ocean
part that we occupy with our business on the opposite side of Hill Street, but right on the creek, but we don't have the other. It's a huge piece of property. It's hills.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is it possible for me to respond?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's the reason why I wanted to get this out in the open before we start fritzing around about the special use permit. You know what I mean? And wasting time on the technicalities when in fact we might have to table it and come back. But by all means, come ahead.
No, I appreciate that. So that, with this application, we did hire a licensed surveyor. And that, I believe that map is included in your packet, so.
Yeah,
we
I'm
have
looking at the
done
deed.
The appropriate deed research.
It says rough.
This issue has arisen before as far as who owns part of this property. So we made sure to do our due diligence and cross-reference that acreage matches tax rolls. So again, this issue came up about 5 years ago, and the other property owner didn't decide to pursue any research at that time. We have hired a licensed surveyor, and they determined that this is the appropriate property boundary to proceed and what we are proposing transfer. And yet, yes, that land is not occupied by any of the applicants.
It's so on here is rough is the last deeded.
That's what
It doesn't, there's no deed after
Kate just said.
rough.
That rough was the last one.
I have a venture here. Jerry's father. And it states the property. You want a copy of it?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking, I thought you were talking to her. I'm sorry.
I have this indenture that states the property on it, 4 acres.
We can compile it with the minutes. That's useful, or for other reference.
Yeah, probably want a copy of it or,
I mean, just for.
oh, so you have a copy. So we can have this copy.
I mean,
Okay, so
just
you can give
for-
it to Dash.
Just for the record, for clarification, so before us right now is a application for a special use permit and an area variance. And effectively, I'm sorry, I forget your name, miss.
Catherine.
Catherine. And effectively, Catherine is here in opposition, speaking in opposition to our vote on this. Fair to
Well,
say.
yeah, but I don't see it as a yes or a no vote until we decide who owns the property. I mean, this has happened to us many, many times in the past where somebody comes in, there's a question as to you own the property or I own the property.
So the question I have for you then, is it within our purview to make determinations as to property ownership on the CBA?
No, it's in our purview. She's getting a lawyer. She's got a lawyer. She's got a lawyer. I said she hasn't had enough time because they just got the letter on Saturday to know that this was even an issue. So my suggestion is that the Pitnellos have the opportunity to pursue this with their lawyer and it be tabled until next month. With all due respect to Lindsay, what you're saying that you already did this once before.
So where I'm going
And
is.
again, the issue came up 5 years ago, and the Pinellas did not pursue it at that time. It involved, the city engineer was notified of the issue, code enforcement, et cetera. But granting the area variance and special use permit at this point doesn't preclude any future review.
Correct. In fact, there are mechanisms under the law for Ms. Pitnell to challenge any determination of ownership or a survey within, or our decision of the ZBA within a certain statutory time frame. There's a mechanism to do that as well. That's, I would just add that to the record.
Okay. So do we want to read out what, Lindsay, what you want to explain to us about this case, what you want to do, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to proceed, and request that the board, approve or grant the special,
And why do you want, for the record, why do you want the special use permit?
the special use permit and the, area variance are required for us to proceed with the purchase of the land and execute the lot line adjustment.
And then what's the reason why you want to do this? You want to expand your house?
We do not want to expand our house, we want to expand our property.
Or just to expand the property? And so that you're using it,
There is no change of uses happening. There are no changes to the residential structures that exist. You know, these uses were in place before the zoning code, so this non-conforming use on these properties has existed before the existing zoning was in place.
right?
Um,
So you just want to be able to use the property rather than be using your neighbor's property?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and it benefits both of us. It puts it, you know, our tax rolls as opposed to our
Right.
neighbors, so there's mutual benefit here for both of us.
right, right. Okay, and anybody here to speak in favor of this proposal? We already have Ms. Pitnello, who is speaking in opposition, I suppose, for lack of a better word. Does anybody from the board have any questions of the applicant? Jack?
I just heard the taxes have been paid. Who paid those taxes on the land?
And we don't know how, we never signed papers, nobody ever signed. We don't know how they got all of our tax, you know.
So you haven't been paying the taxes on it. The Dobbs has, correct?
Yes.
Do you know for approximately how long Mr. Dodge
No,
has been paying?
I don't, because that's, we're trying to search to see where it transferred over.
Or do you remember the last time that, I think you said it was your father's land that was deeded to
My
you?
father-in-law.
Your father-in-law's land? Do you remember the last time that your father-in-law was required to pay taxes on it?
Well, his wife would have been back in, no, I don't. That's, we're trying to find that information. And we haven't had enough time because of the weekend and you know.
Madam
only
Chair,
Yesterday, so.
without knowing who is in full ownership of this property, I would suggest we table this until we find out who the true owner is. I'm not seeing where we can prove, if this goes to litigation down the road, it's gonna cost these folks money with lawyers and what have you, or if you could just simply table it until the young lady has a chance to speak to her attorney. She got this at the last minute.
Right. Does anybody else have any further questions of the applicant? Before we go any further? Jack? Huh, John?
No, I
No.
don't have any questions about the application.
You don't?
No, not at all.
No. Would you have any questions about the issue?
The issue of ownership, my concern is if we take action, are we putting the city at risk where if there's no damage done, if we table it for a month?
That was my thought, but James can't stay out of it. Go ahead, James, speak up.
Trying to pass it over to Dash, and Andy's obviously not here. If Andy were here, I think he would agree with Mark's earlier point. Mark has brought up solid points here about how this is not the ZBA's purview to decide
Who owns it?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And I wouldn't want, I mean, if I sound like I was suggesting that, I wasn't. I was suggesting that we table it until they all find out who owns it. Can I do that? Or is that go against what Mark said? What I just said?
I think,
You could certainly table it. I'm not saying that you can't, and I'm not saying that a direct contradiction with what Mark has said. But Mark's basically, I don't want to mischaracterize what Mark has said.
I mean, I understand. No, I agree with you. I agree with Mark. I agree with you. It's not up to me to decide who owns the property.
The ZBA acts
Because right now you are attempting to purchase a property from Mr. Dodge. So transfer of property is something that's completely separate and apart from what you're asking us to do, which would be to effectively grant you a variance and a special use permit for how you're going to use that property and how it's going to be combined with your current existing property.
After purchase.
Correct.
And
After
it's, def- and if somewhere down the road, we find out that Mr. Dodge does not own the property, then the variances are null and void anyways, right?
And understand, Ms. Pitnell, I have I don't no problem with, adjourning, finding out who owns property. I just don't think as a ZBA member that that's something that that we do. We look at special use permit applications and area variances and use variances, and we look at them based on special criteria and whether or not they meet thresholds, and that's what we do. So again, I don't mind tabling anything for an indefinite period of time if it's the right thing to do, but at the same time, I don't think that's what we are on this board to do. So that's the only reason that I would be against any kind of, adjournment for that purpose. So.
I would just add that the decision that the ZBA makes tonight should be based only on area variance criteria and special use permit criteria, and not based on who owns the property. In fact, who owns the property should be relevant in this case. And the ZBA should make the same decision they would make tonight as they would make in a future meeting after the meetings. Really,
Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
no, go
We-
ahead.
If we go along with this and we grant the variance, so now the fight comes, who owns what piece of property?
Well, that's going to come no matter what.
Right. So who would get that variance? Whoever comes out the successor to that fight?
Correct, because it would run with the land.
So we'll go with the land.
I thought you were here as a member of the zoning board and not as a.
I literally just looked at Andy's chair when I said that too, and he's not there.
So to clarify, the variance would live with the land, but it's only useful to Lindsay's property. It's not going to be useful. I'm sorry. Catherine, because it's relevant to the lot line adjustment that would be abutting property. So it doesn't have it's not useful to anybody else, whether or not the lot line adjustment, these variances would live on or not. Very specific.
And the request is specifically for 250 and 252 Hill Street. The question is, where is that 250 Hill line, property line? But again, I know, I understand, Catherine is doing her due diligence on her side. We have done our due diligence. We have researched the deeds, and the transfer of 250 and 252 were directly from Rothfuss as 235 Hill Street was. And our surveyor has done his due diligence, looking at all the deed research, and has provided the map that you guys all have before you.
Well, I might just say two things. Number one, you had, and I'm not saying this the way it sounds, but you knew what you were going to do, and you didn't find out Saturday that you had to do it. I mean, you had your due diligence done before because you knew what you wanted, what your proposal was, which you should have done. I mean, obviously, she just found out Saturday. That's my point. And my second point is I understand all about the logic of we're here and this is this and this is that. But my philosophy, I realize it's probably not that of somebody else who might have sat on this zoning board for 30 years. But my philosophy has always been, I don't see any reason why we should offend somebody or distress somebody in the community, because we're not going to look at that, which would be an obvious way to make people feel better about the fact that they weren't screwed by having an extra period of time to find out what it is they want to find out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read here, this isn't really going to affect you too much if we wait a month, is it?
I mean, we are under contract. We still have
Right.
due diligence and
But I mean, it's not like, you got the guy sitting there with the crane and he's about to dig something up and build something for you. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
Transferring the land, the transfer tax.
Right.
It really does have some impact to us, and I would argue that, again, the question of who owns the property is not the question before.
I understand that. Right. So I think we all understand each other, but I just wanted to make that point. But that being said, you had a motion. You suggested we table. You're going to make that into a motion, or are you going to leave it a suggestion and we'll take up another motion? If everybody's been heard,
I'll leave it
who
as-
wants to be heard?
I'll leave it as a suggestion, but I did want to know about the transfer of, who was paying the taxes on it.
I understand. Yep. But you, like I say, you made a, you had a suggestion. You're more than welcome to make it a motion to table.
Just curious. I mean, this young lady just got this packet.
Right. So does anybody else on the board have anything else that they want to add? Or are we ready to vote? Or I'm sorry, we're not ready to vote. Is anybody ready to make a motion on the proposal itself?
So I guess, Madam Chair, if no one else is going to, I would make a motion under PLZBA 2021-0027 to approve the special use permit and area variance as proposed.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'm going to second.
Okay, John seconds it. And on the motion, Jack McCann,
Yes.
John Mormile,
I vote yes to approve.
Katie McLaren,
Yes.
Mark Palazzi,
Yes.
and Kathy Conroy, no. So the motion passes. Okay, good luck. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I think we have 5.
Yeah, right.
Fifth.
Meeting adjourned.